Well, there's a character that no one talks about anymore. Yes, I'm going to be talking about a forgotten Family Guy character called Mr. Weed. Mr. Weed though is one of the forgotten characters on this show. In fact, there's actually been quite a few characters on Family Guy throughout the years that has either been forgotten or have been killed off or both. And Mr. Weed has been forgotten and killed off as well. Before I get any further though, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I really would. Remember to stay notified to my future videos. Because I upload all the time. I do it weekly, and you guys can stay notified for future videos. But anywho, let's get back to the review. Well, the Family Guy video here. You may be asking yourself, why are you making a video on Mr. Weed himself? Well, I'm gonna be talking about that in a second. But I want to talk about also that Mr. Weed is not the only character on Family Guy to be killed off. There's actually been quite a few characters to be killed off over the years. Heck, Family Guy has actually at their 20th season now, and I think they've at least killed off like 10 main characters. I think they killed off, which is a whole lot. Well, they're not really main characters, like more side characters, but they've killed off quite a bit of important characters. Now, Mr. Weed, though, he was actually a character that got killed off when the show was still good. Yes, he got killed off in the third season of this show, back before it got canceled the first time. And I gotta say, though, I'm not really a fan that they killed off this character. I mean, we already know him. We don't know him very well. He appeared in like, I think 5 episodes of this show, and that's about it. He hardly played a role at all. We don't know much about him at all. Except that he's a gay pervert. That's all we know about Mr. Weed here, is that he's gay and he likes, sex with men and all that. That's all we really know about him. But yeah, basically though, I gotta say though, while other characters have had more roles and we've known more about them, Mr. Weed is one of those characters we don't know about at all. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I feel like I kind of wish they didn't kill him off at all. Like, they could have kept him alive, or maybe at least kept him alive longer than just like 3 seasons. Because at this point, we don't really know much about Mr. Weed, and I gotta say, yeah, the show down the road would have gotten worse, but I think there could have been more episodes that they could have done with Mr. Weed than just kill him off, on the 3rd season. He was the very first side character to be killed off on the show. We had like characters like that died, throughout the episodes, from like death, like Stewie, or they just typically died, like Lois's aunt. She died, but they were just like one-off characters. They were on one episode, and that was it. Mr. Weed, though, was Peter's boss, and yeah, they kind of did him dirty and kind of just killed him off without, which is kind of a shame. because I feel like they could have done a lot more with Mr. Weed than just killing him off. But yeah, they killed him off a long time ago, and briefly they'll reference him, or he will appear. Like, I think there's an episode in season 18 where his ghost appears, like on a ship that Peter daydreams. But But basically, that's all they really do. They don't have any. He doesn't have any roles anymore or anything. So yeah, basically they killed off this character without like giving him any personality or not knowing anything about him. Like, I feel like they should have gave him a backstory, and not just gave him a backstory, but they should have like they should have gave him more of a personality, because I feel like he wasn't alive long enough for like us to really know about him. Because his first appearance was in Death Has a Shadow. That was his first appearance, and he was just in there briefly. And then the last episode he was in was Mr. Saturday Night. That's night with a K, by the way, a K, not just an N, a K. So clearly, they could have done a whole lot more with this character than just making him appear briefly and then kill him off and stuff. And that's the thing, that they kind of just killed him off and all that. That's the problem with a lot of Family Guy characters that they do kill off. They don't really give them much of a personality. They just kill them off. Like one episode they're there, and the next episode they're gone. Now, some of them are because voice actors passed away voicing the characters, but even then, I feel like there's so much more you could do with some of these characters and just kill them off. Basically, a few episodes later, he'll be he'll be replaced by Herbert the Pervert, because they made Herbert the Pervert a gay pervert too. So yeah, they basically just killed off one character just to create a whole new one. So I'm like, what was the point of that? Now you can say too, though, that like Herbert the Pervert does have some great moments. He does. I'm not gonna lie. He doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't have great moments, because Herbert does have great moments throughout the show. But I feel like they instead of killing off another character to replace him with another one, they could have done so much more with Mr. Weed and gave him more of a personality, and we could have focused more on his backstory, because a lot of times in the later seasons, we'll get backstories of a lot of these characters, but we don't get any backstory for Mr. Weed. He does mention briefly mention before he dies, and the Saturday night episode. He does briefly mention that his original last name and stuff, but I don't know, I feel like there could have been so much more they could have done with this character. There really could have been. Now I know in movies and stuff all the time they kill off characters all the time. It's like Frozen, they killed off Elsa and Anna's mother and father. They killed off Mufasa and the Lion King. Heck, on Cloudy the Chance of Meatballs, they kill off Flint's mother, like just out of nowhere. She just died. So clearly they do this all the time in movies and shows, but shows, I feel like, with shows that when they go on for a long time, they end up, I don't know, what I'm saying is they make a plot, and then they basically, they create a whole plot killing off a character like in Family Guy and stuff, and then they forget about the plot and add a new plot in there. So like when Peter was done with his fishing, instead of Mr. Weed, coming back, they bring a whole new character in there who has no personality at all. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Angela. I don't really care for Angela too much, even though she's voiced by the great Carrie Fisher. I still don't think she's that great of a character. Mr. Weed had more of a personality than she did, and the fact that they killed them off, then created a plot where Peter's a fisherman for like a couple episodes, and then he goes and works at a brewery, just makes it kind of feel kind of unnecessary at times. I feel like they could have just left Mr. Weed alive. They could have left him alive instead of killing him off, and they could have gave him more of a personality. Maybe they could have, he could have got fired from the toy factory, and he goes to work as a fisherman, and then he comes back a couple seasons later and works at the toy factory again. Instead of killing off a character that only appears, again, he only appears in like 5 episodes, and even in those 5 episodes, he hardly appears at all. So they could have, easily saved that trouble by just having Peter get fired. He gets fired for messing up at the job, and he goes to work as a fisherman, and then comes back, in season 4 as a toy factory guy again. See, they didn't need to kill off a character that we hardly knew just to do this. They didn't need to do that. And like I said, they have killed off other characters too. They killed off like Adam West. They killed off Peter's mom. They've killed off a lot of characters, including Boris, the bartender guy. They killed him off too. But a lot of those characters had more of a personality, and it had more episodes to them than Mr. Weed, which only appeared in like 5 episodes. So clearly they could have saved the trouble by killing him off and just had Peter get fired instead, and they could have kept the character alive. That way they could have used him down the road instead of creating a whole new character that again is voiced by the legendary Carrie Fisher, who has passed away too, but in real life. But I feel like that they could have just left her out of the show, because Angela has no personality at all. She doesn't really have a reason to exist. While Mr. Weed had, his traits of being gay. So they could have done so much more with this. And you could argue that you could argue, well, that there's Herbert the Pervert, so why do we need Mr. Weed anymore? Well, there's also the guy who, there's also the guy who says, "Oh no," who's gay too. The guy who says, "Oh no," he's gay, and they make jokes about it all the time. So they could have still made jokes with Mr. Weed in there too. I feel like I said, I feel like them killing off Mr. Weed was kind of just kind of pointless, and led to nothing, just to create a whole new character that's unnecessary when they could have just easily kept Mr. Weed alive and just had Peter get fired, because he didn't even keep his job as a fisherman. So I'm like, what was the point of all that? So you guys see what I'm talking about here. And yeah, like I mentioned, in movies, they kill off characters all the time, but usually that creates a plot, and it's not like they're going to be making 1,000, sequels while they're making a crap ton of episodes of a TV show. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like they could have just kept Mr. Weed alive and just had Peter get fired instead of creating a whole new character to be Peter's boss, only for her to get killed off too down the road. So I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about this. You guys think Mr. Weed should have stayed alive? You think they could have done a whole lot more with Mr. Weed instead of killing him off? Because I feel like they could have done a whole lot more with him. I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure if I thought about it real well, I could probably think of episodes they could have done with him. But overall, I'm going to go ahead and let this go. I had to redo this video because I messed up the first time, and I messed up the first time, and I was gonna play Jim's theme in the background from Jim Reviews. I'll do a different video for that though instead. I'll do a different one because I was gonna do that for a throwback to Jim's channel, who has retired from YouTube. But I guess I won't do that right now. I'll do that later. Anywho, it's time I let this go. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think. And I'll see you guys later for more videos. Bye.